So hi everyone, this will be a series of projects, basic projects for React. Because as we know that we used to watch a lot of tutorials, but when we go to write something on the code, when we go to write some code or when we try to create some app, then we fail. So in this series, I will teach you in a very basic manner, and I will teach you how you can approach and how you can learn to build these apps by your own and how you can think of building these apps. So let's get started. So first I will, into first video I will create this to do app. So what is the functionality? I will keep it very basic. You will have a little, you will get very basic knowledge of React. We will use only use state here. So let me type something, like I'm typing something good, and when we press enter, then this will come here. And again when I will type something like better, then it's coming here. Best, then it's coming here. So in this way you have to also go, first you have to become good, then you have to become better, then you have to become the best. So now when we refresh this, then these things will disappear. I have not used the local storage to save these things because I want to keep this to do app very basic. So first what we need to do, first let's think that what we need to create. So we will create this to do app. So what are the basic things? There will be this div and one input tag and one space here where the task will be populated. And if I would have started this, then how I would have approached it? I would have only printed, I would have only populated one of the tasks. Like when I will create this, then I will populate only one thing, like this good. And after that, first I will try to create this thing, and after that I will think about other things, like how I can type, how I can populate here more than one task. Like I was populating 3 tasks or 4 tasks, however whatever the number will be, n number of tasks will be populated here. So let's get started. First we will try to create this interface, and we will then look into the functionality, and we will only try to populate one thing, one task here. So let's get started. So what we will do, we will first go to the source file, we will remove all the css app.css, and then we will remove all the index.css files, and then we will remove these things from app.js which are not useful for us. Only we will keep app.css here because we will write the css there only. We will not use any fancy things like we will not use tailwind, and we will not use, somebody uses bootstrap also, we will not use those things. We will write the css by our own. Let me remove this use state, otherwise it will give us some problems. Let me clear all these things. So now let's go to our development server, and you can see nothing is here, but we need to show something there. So what we will do, we will create one div here, and we will give a class name. So in JavaScript we use class, and here we use class name. So class name will be, I will give container, and inside this container what we need to create, we need to write this to do app, we need this input field, and we need one div here inside which we will populate the task. So we will create another div. Let me give heading tag, as this is heading, so we can give heading tag here, container. We will give a class name for this, and here the class name will be, let's use BAM convention. You can Google what is this convention. Heading, and the heading will be to do app, and then we need the input field. So we will write the input, we will keep it self closing, and inside input we will give a class name, and the class name will be container input. And one more div we need, inside which we will populate all our tasks. So let's create one div, and the class name will be, let's name it as container task. Okay, so let's go to our development server, and now we can see we have got these two things. Let me give some hardcore value to it. Let's try task, and now you can see we have got all these things. So let's style these things. You might be knowing all these stylings, as if I am assuming that you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript at least intermediate level. So in styling, what we will do, we will firstly set some default values. We will remove some default values which are margin padding. So margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing will be border box. And now we will give some styling to the body, and body inside body height will be 100 VH. Display will be flex. Align items will be center. Justify content will be center. And now we will style the container. We will give a height to the container. Let's give 30 rem. Width, let's give 35 rem. I calculated all these values previously, and after that I am writing all the things here. You might be thinking how I am writing without seeing the development server. Align items, center. Because my main motto is to teach you React, not these CSS things. So I am just writing this by my own. Background color. So these are very basic CSS. On reading, you might getting all the things. That's what is happening. Padding will be 1 rem, and border radius will be 1 rem. Now let's go to the development server and let's see what. So now you can see it is looking like this. Let's give a little bit of more stylings. Let's give styling to the container heading. Let's give color orange, and margin bottom will be 5 rem. Let's go to development server. Now you can see the color has changed to orange, and it has got a margin of 5 rem. Now let's give styling to this container input. Container input, and let's give it a height of 2 rem. Width of 100%, and padding 0.3 rem. Font size will be medium. Border will be none, and margin bottom again I will give 5 rem. Let's go to development server. So here you can see it is looking awesome. Now let's give styling to this div where we will populate all the tasks. So container task. Let's keep it with 100%. Font size will be large, and font family will be sans serif. So we have got basic stylings for our basic project. It is looking like this only. Okay. So now let's go to the functionality. So we will use very basic functionality here. So what we need to do, we need to set here some value, like whatever we will feed in this input field, we need to show that here in the task container. So what we will do, we will first create one state. Name of the variable will be task, and set task. We will use state. We have to import the user state here. Import user state from React. So now whatever we will keep the value of this task, we want that value here in this task div. So we have to write this task here. So initially it is empty. So when we will go to this development server, you can see it is empty. But if we write here something like, let's write task1, then it will come here. So we need to change this dynamically, that whatever we will feed in this it should come here. So what we will do, we will keep it initially empty only, and what we need to do, like whenever we write here something and we click on enter button, then I want that thing to come here. So for that, what functionality we will need, we will need one listener, on click listener. So where we need the on click listener, we need that on click listener in the input field. Basically we call it as event handler. We need an event handler here. So let's write an event handler here. We will write on key down. This is a, so let's give a name of a function using which we will populate the task here. So let's name it as populate task. So what we will do, we will write the function here like const populate task, and we will write an arrow function, and inside this arrow function what we will do, we will pass one event, and we will change the set task, because in use state what we do, if we need to change the value of this task, then we have to use this set task to change this value. So what we will do, we will write set task, and inside this set task what we will do, we will write event dot target dot value. So now what do you think, will work or not? If we write here something, then you can see it is populating it here. But what we need to do, when we type here something and we click on enter, then we need to populate it here. We don't directly need it to populate it here. So for that, what we need to do, we have to check that if enter key is pressed or not. Then for that, what we will do, we will use here if else condition. So if event dot key is equal to enter, if it is equal to enter, then only we will populate the task there. So now let's come here and let's see. Now you can see it is populating the task. Now you can see it is populating the task. So our basic thing has been done, that we have created one to do app, and its functionality also working, that when we write something here and enter the enter key, then it is populating it inside this div. But what we need more than one task. So for that, let's think using JavaScript, that what we will do to populate these things more than one task here. So for that, what we will do in JavaScript, we use loops, and a little bit of other things will be also used, but we use loop there. But here in React, you have to think about that how we can use loops here and how you can change that code according to React here. So for that, what we will do, we will use some of the things. So firstly, what we will do, we will pass one array here inside this, so that we can save more than one values of this task, and we can populate that inside this taskbar. So when we are using this, array, then we need one more thing, we need map function. So we will use map function to populate the more than one task. We have to first give an on change here, on change inside this input field. So on change will be, name of this function will be handle input change. And one more thing we have to do, we have to create one more state here. So const input value set input value, and initially it will be empty. So we will use this input value here inside this input field, like inside value we will keep input value. Now we have to define this function handle input change. So for handle input change, what we will do, we will write const handle input change, inside this event will be passed, and inside this what we will do, we will set this input value. So set input value event dot target dot value. So basically we have written an on change function here, event listener here, and we have defined it, but we have not used it yet. So how we will use it? So when we have keep one more check here, that as we have used the array here, so we will check event dot target dot trim. So what does this trim does? This trim does, it removed all the empty spaces. So what we are checking, that trim should not be equal to empty. It should not be equal to empty. First condition is that key should be pressed, should be enter, and second condition is event dot target dot trim should not be empty. So what we need to do, we need to, now if we will use this event dot target dot value, then it will not work like how we were using, as we have used this array here. So what we need to do, we have to use spread operator. So task spread operator we have used, and we will give value event dot target dot value dot trim, and we have to keep it inside a array. What it will do, it will basically create a new array which will contain all the things which are constituted by this array, the previous array, and also it will constitute all the new things which we will feed inside this input field, and it will create a new array here. And one more thing we need to do, when we click on this, like when we click here and write something, then after it will populate, although it is not working now because there are some mess up in the codes, we will fix that. So what I'm explaining is, when we will click on this, like let me go to that, if we are clicking something here and we click here, then how it is looking, that the empty input field is now empty, but what it is here, what here it is going to do, it will not become empty. So to make it empty, what we need to do, we need to set the input value to be empty. Set input value to be empty. So now let's try to write our further function, which is map. We will use map here, so that map will take all the values from this array, and it will populate inside the taskbar. So inside this we will use task dot map, and inside map we will write two things. First will be the task, will be the first element of the array, and second thing will be, I will take the index, because when we are mapping something inside React, then we need to give the key value. So we don't have any key value because we are populating these tasks by our own. So what we will do, we will write key value as index. So inside this, what we will do, we will create one div, and inside this div we will give the key value, which is the index, and we will also give the task here. Let's check it's working or not. So let me write good, it's working, better, good. Okay, so we are getting some bug here. Let me fix the bug. So what the bug was, I need to write here this variable, which was the first element of the array. So I need to write here tasks. So now let's go. Now let's write good, better, best. Now it's working absolutely fine. One more thing what we need to do, we need to add this tick mark here. So for that we will select this, and now you can see it's working absolutely fine. So like this you can compare this, so you can try this, and the code will be in the description box, so you can go there and you can access the codes from there.